Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, as you can see in the title, we're going to be doing my go-to event makeup, which for me is something nice and smoky and sultry on the eyes, giant lashes, a nice nude lip, and very glowy skin. So if you want to see how we achieve this look, make sure to keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe because I do upload 3 times a week. That is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So without further ado, let's jump right into the tutorial. So I did already prime the eyes off camera, and I will be taking my Natasha Denona Lila palette for the look today, because when I do go to an event, I want to make sure to use a formula I trust, and I love these like cool smoky tones. So I am actually going to start by taking Nude Mauve, which is this taupey shade down here, and I'm going to dust that in the entire transition area. Then I'm going to go into Nude Vino up here on a flat brush. And for this one, I'm going to pat it on the outer third of the lid, and then in small circular motions, blend it up to the crease. Then I'm going to go into Per Se, which is a very cool gray, and I'm going to take that just to blend out the edges. Then going back into that first brush with no additional product, we're just going to lightly buff all of that together because we do want to make sure that it is very well blended and very neat. Now this is the part that's going to change depending on your eye shape. My eyes are very round, so I do like to play up the roundness and actually take that shadow. So I'll be tight to my eye here, and then I'll actually go a little above here because I do want to elongate that lid shape, especially because my eyelids are very hooded. So by really like bringing that up, it does help to round the eye out a whole lot. Next, I'm going to take more of that Nude Vino shade, and this time we're going to take quite a bit, and we're going to pack that on the entire outer third. The first time we laid this color down, we were really just kind of mapping out where everything was going to go. This time we're really building up that intensity because this is going to give us the smokiness. Now I'm going to take Helio down here on my finger, and I'm going to gently press that onto the center of the lid. And I'm just going to blend out the edge first. And then taking a touch more of that Nude Vino shade, we're just going to pack where that meets the outer portion of the eye. So now I'm going to take a little bit of Wanderlust from Stila, and I'm going to grab that on a little bit of a flat brush. I go right off of the applicator and I take a little bit at a time on my brush, and I'm going to take this and just gently pat it on the innermost third of the lid. And once that's dried down, taking a tiny bit more of Nude Vino up here, just like we did when we applied the shimmer shade, I'm going to build up a touch more of that depth on the outer third of the eye. So at this point, I would normally clean up any fallout because there usually would be, but today I actually don't have much. And then I'm just going to throw on my mascara and my lashes, and I'll be right back. So the lashes are on. I did throw on the Gaia lashes from the March BoxyCharm box. They came in the Boxy Luxe. They are by Lily Lashes. I will insert a video right here with my whole unboxing of that box, but that is where these lashes came from. Now that the lashes are on and I kind of see the shape this is going, the lash is covering up most of the eye. So I'm going to take a little bit more of that neutral transition shade, and I'm actually going to take that and just bring it above the transition area, just because I do want to lightly intensify that shadow, so when I look forward, you still see a little bit of that shadow peeking out. Then I'm going to take a little bit of Juno down here, and on that same fluffy brush, I'm going to lightly hit up the brow bone. So to prep the skin, I'm going to take a little bit of my Tatcha Silk Canvas, which is a great anti-polluting and pore-filling primer. And I'm really just going to concentrate this any of the areas of my face where I find I have a lot of pores and texture. And then over that, because we want this to last all night long with no issues, I'm going to take some of the Bye Bye Pores from IT Cosmetics, which is a great mattifying and also blurring primer. And I'm basically going to take that everywhere, including over where I put the Tatcha. So the goal of events is to be very skin-like. So I'm actually going to grab a domed foundation brush. This is from IT Cosmetics, And I'm going to take a little bit of the Beauty Blender Bounce Foundation, because this is a really nice, long-wearing, water-resistant, basically everything you want in a foundation. I do love the finish of a sponge, but I like to start by dotting it around the skin. Then I'll take a brush just to move it around. Then once it's mostly blended out, I will take my sponge and just pat over the entire face just to make sure that I get a nice even finish. Now it is definitely a lot of coverage, but you will see that it still looks like skin showing through. Some of my freckles and birthmarks are still visible on the skin. It's not completely covered up, which is great, so that when we add our powder and we add a little bit of concealer, it's not gonna get overwhelmingly full coverage. Now, because I do have a lot of texture on my cheek area, I do like to take a stick foundation. This one is from Lancome, and I will take just a touch of this just on my cheek and nose, just because by adding this formula, I find it just smooths in the pores a little bit better, conceals everything up, and helps to look a little more airbrushed. You know, on camera or when I'm, not really doing something where I'm one-on-one in people's faces, I don't really care as much. But when I am going to an event and there's going to be professional cameras, I do want to make sure that the skin looks the best it possibly can. Lashes will cover up an eye look. A pretty lip is going to draw away from the face, but the skin, if it doesn't look perfect, is going to look wrong. So I'm going to take a touch of my Shape Tape in Light Medium Honey. And when I say a touch, I actually mean a little bit. I do like to make sure to concentrate anywhere I want to brighten. And for me, that's the biggest difference with event makeup. I want to make sure it looks good from photographs and up in person. But I actually tone down the heaviness that I normally do when I'm getting ready for every day. Because heavy is okay if you're moving around and you're doing a lot. But like if you're dancing and you're wearing all night long, you want it to last and you don't want it to move. But you still want to make sure that you look like yourself. And I'm going to take a little bit of my Coty Airspun powder and I'm going to set down the under eyes. Now normally, I would then take this powder on the entire face. However, this powder is known to flashback. So I do just set the under eyes with it and then I go in with another powder. This is the Beauty Bakery Flour Powder, which I have been talking about for quite some time. I'm definitely a fan of it. So I'm going to take a little bit of that and press it over that Airspun powder. And I'm going to take this to lightly set down the rest of the face. Then on a large fluffy brush, I'm going to take a little bit of the Sephora Micro Smooth Powder. I'm in the shade 15. And I do like to make sure to take quite a bit of that on the top of the brush. And I'll just take this and smooth over the skin. With this powder, it is super lifelike and super skin-like. It does have a nice sheen to it, but it definitely mimics the way skin looks. This brush is massive, and I stopped using it for a while, and I was cleaning my brushes the other day and realized how giant it was, and I haven't been able to put it down since. Now you'll notice the slight sheen that gave the skin just helps to awaken the skin a bit and definitely make it look like more skin-like. That is like a #1 for me when I'm going to an event, is I want to look like I'm looking pretty and I like to look like I'm wearing my makeup, but I don't want it to look like everything is caked on. I really like going for that like your skin but better look. I know that's the opposite of what everybody says, but for me, I like less coverage at an event and I like to look a little bit more like me, whereas most people will just kind of go all out. So at this point, I'm going to take a little bit of black liner and just throw it in the outermost portion of the waterline a little bit thicker. And then I like to take a much lighter amount on the inner corner because I definitely want to help to enhance that almond shape. So first, with no product, I'm just going to gently buff that out. It's going to look like a lot, but don't worry, we are going to clean that up. Then going into this corner shade with a smaller pencil brush, we're just going to diffuse that out a little and blend it to the inner corner. So now on that fluffy brush from before, I'm gonna dip into this shade right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start at the middle of the eye and I'm gonna buff it out. Because of my eye shape, I don't really love the way a wing looks on me. So if I wanna get that winged out shape, I have to do it from the lower lash line. So this is a trick that I picked up to just kind of elongate my waterline. And that's just gonna help to pull the eye up a little bit and help to connect it to the lashes. Now I'm gonna take that deepest shade that we used and I'm going to pat that over and blend that into the upper lid color. Then dipping into a black shadow, this is from the Sultry palette from Anastasia. I'm gonna take a tiny bit of black and just connect where that waterline meets the lid. And now you'll see that warmth is still there. It just kind of makes the whole eye look a little bit more together. So I'm gonna take that first brush and I'm just going to kind of blend upper to lower just to make sure everything kind of looks seamless. And then going back into our lid shade over here on a brush, I'm gonna take a very small amount of that and just run that from inner corner down the waterline. Then going back into Juno, the shade that we took for the brow bone, but this time I'm gonna add a little bit of Fix Plus to it. We're just gonna stamp that over the entire area of the inner corner. Now at this point, I'm gonna take a little bit of Fix Plus over the entire face, just to take down any powderiness. So now that the eyes are looking obnoxiously smoky in the best way imaginable, we're gonna just throw on a quick brow. Normally I would skip this because I do the same brow every day, but for an event I do look a little bit differently. So I'm gonna take my Anastasia Brow Wiz and I'm just going to line the top of the brow with this. Then we're just gonna comb through it. Then I'm gonna take my Milk Kush Brow and I'm gonna start by gently running that through the brow. Then taking a little angled brush, I'm gonna take a tiny bit and I'm gonna very gently feather out the innermost area of the brow and just pull it a little bit closer than I normally do. I just find that for events, especially if there's gonna be pictures, this just looks a little bit nicer. And the last thing for brows I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a little bit of the Anastasia Brow Gel and just set everything in place. At this point, if I haven't already done so, I'm gonna take a little bit of my Laneige Lip Sleeping Mask. More than likely, I'm gonna be going in with a matte lip, especially when there's an event, so I wanna make sure my lips are nice and prepped before I go in with that. Next, I'm gonna dip into my Marc Jacobs Tantastic Bronzer. And normally, you know, I like to go in with a brush like this because it's nice and tight. For events, I do like to go in with a much larger brush. And this is something I've been doing actually more and more lately, just because I find that this does build up the bronze a little bit more, especially if there's gonna be photography again, because we don't want to look pasty as all shit, because I have enough of that issue on my own. Last thing we want is for that to happen at an event as well. And now that there's a little bit of bronzer on, we're looking a little bit more healthy already. Now I do like to build up the bronzer, like I said, a bunch more than I normally would, but lately I've been doing more bronzer and blush anyway, so not the end of the world, but just gives the skin a little bit more depth. Next, dipping into this shade right here from my Ambient Lighting Unlocked palette. This is the finishing powder in Filtered Light, which for me is actually a contour shade. I'm just gonna get that right in the hollow of the cheek. And you see how this cheek just looks a little bit more sculpted now? I start by buffing back and forth, and then once I have the general shape down, I will actually stipple into that hollow. Then going back into my, I'm gonna throw that. Then going back into my bronzer brush, I'm just going to lightly blend that out. And you see how there's a subtle sheen still to the skin, but there's no highlighter? This is just gonna help to give you that like nice flushed glow. For blush, I'm gonna go into my Tarte Blush Book. Because the eyes are very like mauvey peach, I do like to keep that tone. So I'm going to be mixing these two shades right here. They are Spirit Fingers and Slumber Party. And then with whatever's left on my brush, we're just gonna hit up the tip of the nose and the perimeter of the face. Then going back into that contour shade, I'm going to start up at the innermost part of the eyeshadow, and I'm gonna bring that down the side of the nose to contour. Then taking the regular finishing powder, I'm just gonna take that down the center of the nose, just to brighten that up a little bit. And I'm also gonna take that same shade and just lightly dust that on the under eye. So before I throw on my highlight, I'm going to grab my setting spray. This is the Seal the Deal Long Lasting Matte from Flower Beauty. And I'm just going to set the entire face down. Now for highlight, I do like to keep those pinky vibes. So I'm going to be going into an OG. This is my Nicole Guerrero Glow Kit from Anastasia. And I'm going to take Kitty Cat, the pink shade up here. And I'm going to mix a little bit of Glow Getter down here. And I'm going to add that to the cheekbone. And now to add a little bit more sparkle, I'm going to take a little bit of the Artist Couture Diamond Glow Powder. This is in the shade Illuminati. And I'm working right out of the cap. I'm not taking a whole lot. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the highest most point of the cheek. On a small little detail brush, I'm going to take that same Illuminati highlighter and just build up the inner corner. One last time, we're going to set the face. This is the Lancome Fix and Forget It spray. So because the eye is so like pink and neutral but pretty, I'm going to take the Buttercream lipstick in the shade Cream from Bite Beauty. This is a little bit more of like a sheer neutral. And that's going to serve as the base for our gloss. I'm going to be taking Fussy from Fenty Beauty because it is this beautiful light pink. And now that the face is dry, going back into my blush brush, I'm just going to lightly stipple over the highlighter just to make sure that everything is blended nicely into the skin. And just because I love the way that glitter photographs, I'm going to take some of my Cover FX Illuminating Setting Spray and I'm just going to hit up the perimeters of the face. And that's the finished look. So this is my go-to event glam. It is usually a soft neutral pink on the lips, something glittery pink and smoky on the eyes with a giant lash. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know down below what does your go-to event look like, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!